Welcome to the Capstone Conversation, the East Bay's best podcast. Hosted by Jared Ash, bringing you in-depth conversations with the leaders shaping your community.
Today, we have a guest host live from ICSC in Monterey, an economic development and retail attraction conference. Alex Greenwood, a consultant for economic development, interviews 5 city leaders from Martinez, Pleasanton, San Leandro, Sunnyvale, and Merced. Thank you, Alex, for this fascinating episode.
Good morning, everyone, to the Capstone Conversations podcast. Jared is out this month, and he's asked me to be your guest host. I'm Alex Greenwood, an economic development consultant, and this month we're going to be talking about retail attractions. We're here at the Monterey Conference Center for the ICSC Idea Exchange. It's a very attended and important event for retail attraction that cities from around the state are coming to. All through the calendar, all across the year, cities from all over the state are spending hundreds of hours, thousands of dollars to try to attract the retail tenants they want for their communities. Today, we're going to be talking to some cities to find out what they do to prepare, what analysis they do, how do they approach retail attraction, where do they succeed, where do they fail, what missed opportunities do they have, and lessons learned for us all. So join me today. We're going to have a great conversation. I'm here with Michael Cass. Michael Cass is the Assistant Community and Economic Development Director for the City of Martinez. Thank you for spending time with us, Michael.
Thank you for having me.
So Martinez, what's going on? This is a city that is on a mission to really put itself on the map for retail. Can you tell us some of the things that you've been doing the past year for retail attraction?
We've been making a lot of change. We are on a go-go. We have support from the top down, which is key to our success. Some of the things that we've been doing is we've done a fairly comprehensive revamp of our zoning ordinance where we're streamlining processes, being more development friendly, updating our regulations to be more cutting edge with emerging trends and types of businesses that are coming in and more flexibility.
And sorry to interrupt, but a lot of people throw out the term streamlining. Can you be more specific about how are you making it easier for retailers to get their projects approved in Martinez?
So there are a number of business types that we're particularly trying to target where we've made them by right without going through any planning process in the city. A good example of that is our brewery scene is really thriving and it's really brought a new energy to our downtown. Historically, that was a process that required a conditional use permit, and now that's a by right approval.
Wow, fantastic. What else?
So some of the other things that we've done, we've updated our guides and handouts to pull information from various government regulatory agencies together to create a one-stop shop. We've created a concierge program where we're bringing all of the professionals together and we'll hold businesses' hands through the process to help them open their business or expand their business in Martinez.
That's wonderful. Tell me about any recent successes you've had during the past year or so.
So I think our best success that we've had through some of these initiatives is with Ross Stores. They opened a new store very quickly. We expedited building permits. We worked with them from initial conversations at the ICSC conference. We facilitated discussions with the broker who was representing the property and really worked with them in tandem to help them locate. And we just actually ran into them earlier today and they said they're thriving and they're exceeding their expectations.
Oh, that's wonderful. Talk to me about the interplay between housing and retail. They say that retail follows rooftops and it's been a challenge for a lot of communities to build housing. What's happening on the housing development scene?
So that is an area that we've particularly been targeting in terms of our zoning code amendments and streamlining and incentives for development. We've been targeting key areas where we've upzoned properties. We've created overlay districts. We've created opportunities for multifamily and mixed use development that would be allowed by right. And by right, meaning they wouldn't need to go through any discretionary public hearing process and they would be exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act, giving a lot more certainty and a much more expeditious process for building housing and mixed use developments.
That's fantastic. Last question is, I have to ask about the new waterfront plans that the city has. And I know you're at the very beginning of this, but is there anything that you can share publicly about what's going on?
So the city has entered into an exclusive negotiating agreement with Tucker Sadler Architects. They're a San Diego-based developer. And the preliminary plans are for multiple hotels, commercial and retail space, an amphitheater and convention center, and a completely rebuilt and revitalized marina. It is a $50 million plus project that is envisioned to be transformational for Martinez.
Yeah. I'm sorry, 500 million, right?
Correct.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And that could be a real game changer for retail as well, just with all of the regional tourism and visiting that it's going to generate.
Correct. So we're envisioning that not only this will be a transformational project for our waterfront and marina, but we're envisioning that it will have a trickle effect into the adjacent downtown and surrounding areas as well. We're already starting to see increased interest in Martinez because of the anticipation of this project. Thank you.
Hello again. We are now speaking with Christine Velasquez with the city of Sunnyvale. Sunnyvale has become a retail powerhouse on the peninsula. It wasn't always that way. There's been a lot of strategic planning in retail. And I'm really excited, Christine, for you to tell us a little bit about what's happening. Could you start by just telling us what are some of the retail stories that have happened the last year or two in Sunnyvale?
Sure, absolutely. And thanks for having me. We have a story to tell. There is a renaissance happening in our downtown. And a big reason for that is a major project, CityLine, a Hunter Properties Sears Regis project, mixed-use development, 2 housing towers, retail space, and office. And we've had a number of great retailers come in throughout the years, including a movie theater, a Whole Foods, Ulta, so some traditional retail, and lots of great restaurants. Tipsy Putt is there as well, so we have entertainment there. And it all complements Murphy Avenue, which is historic Murphy Avenue. It's like Restaurant Row with a lot of different options, cultural foods. And we're actually just finishing up a pedestrian mall there where we are really, it was a pilot program during COVID to close the street down and have pedestrians really enjoy the space there. And we shut it down permanently so we can enjoy it in that way. So it's been a great placemaking area.
That's wonderful. A lot of cities have wanted mixed-use retail to happen, and it doesn't always happen. It's hard to make it pencil out financially. It's hard to design retail on the ground floor with residential or office above. Very complicated, and it's really hard to lay out a strategy where you get the quality of retail that you want, as opposed to just C-level retail that just is stuck in as an afterthought on the ground floor. We've seen so many poorly executed programs, but in Sunnyvale, it's been a runaway success. How did it happen? What was the planning involved? Or how did you work with the developer to ensure that you got a theater? I hear you even have a Shake Shack.
It's opening soon.
Opening soon.
Next week.
High quality execution of ground floor retail in a mixed use environment. Tell us, how did this happen?
So this is a great example of a public-private partnership, and the developers were great to work with, very thoughtful in the design and layout and development of the retail space on the ground floor, where spaces were designed to allow restaurants, to allow the venting and everything that's necessary to make spaces flexible enough and bring in the types of tenants you want to bring in. So there's a number of new restaurants that are coming in, eating establishments, just like you mentioned, Shake Shack and others. So there's more to come, and we're really excited about that. We are, again, truly experiencing a renaissance in downtown. The CityLine project and what's happening there on Murphy Avenue and downtown in general is part of our success in our long-range planning in the area. So these are results of our downtown-specific plan, which provides our guidance in developing downtown the way that you see it today.
That's wonderful. When you did the specific plan and just your planning in general, was it informed by market analysis or financial analysis, or was it more of an exercise in urban design and what we want for our city without regard to the market?
It's a combination of some of the factors that you mentioned. There's an emphasis on really creating a flow, really walkable downtown where it's a great experience for people to come out. There's also a very nice community component there, a gathering area where redwoods were preserved in the area. So there's a redwood place and thoughtfully designed where you can grab something to eat, sit there and feel like you're in nature in the middle of our downtown core. So it's a great balance and combination. We really thought about the experience that people are going to have from residents who are moving in. I mentioned there's the new 2 towers that came in, which are now about 100% occupied. And there was a lot of Class A space that came in, which is now signed by Databricks, we talked about, and expanding from San Francisco, as well as CrowdStrike, which is already in downtown, expanding into the new space, bringing in thousands of employees to the downtown. So what we're seeing out there is exactly what we planned for, hoped for, and it's a place to come out and discover.
That's wonderful. Do you have any general advice for cities that are trying to plan and implement mixed-use retail? Or were there any lessons that you learned through your experience and through this project that, everything from make sure the ducts go all the way up to the roof, or make sure that the retail on the first floor has 16-foot clear height, or anything like that you could pass on to other cities?
Yes, it's something that if you can get it into your policies, your zoning code, that's great. But making those recommendations while they're going through the process, if there's a development agreement in place, it's something that can be discussed possibly at that time. But making the spaces flexible enough and allowing, for example, restaurant and making sure that you can put a grease trap or venting in the space. And for the CityLine project, there were other factors that we thought about, just the scale, the look and feel, the design, the aesthetics of the exterior, but also back of house and making sure that even that blends in nicely. And that the back of house for that project went behind the scenes there, behind the main area where it should be, but the way that it's positioned. The
trash enclosures,
trash enclosures,
loading areas.
Exactly.
Got it. Yeah. That is fantastic. What are some of the things that the city of Sunnyvale does year-round to attract retail, or what specific projects have you undertaken as part of your retail attraction program?
Sure. We're moving through this recovery phase. It's really exciting to really be proactive in getting out there and really continuing to attract businesses and understanding what our retail voids are, where the sales tax leakage is, and where we're losing out to other cities, and putting an emphasis on those types of tenants and pursuing them. I mentioned in our conversation, the council adopted an economic development strategic plan just a couple of years ago. It's the first of the cities, and one of the 4 top priorities is to maintain and enhance the retail vibrancy in Sunnyvale. So we have the support by our leadership and our guidelines and going about doing that and going out to conferences and providing the best customer service and just being responsive and getting to a yes or no on whether a project is permitted, but really rolling out the red carpet, if you will, when we are pursuing tenants, working closely with the brokerage community and marketing it together, marketing spaces together, working with property owners, letting them know about the plans in the area if they aren't aware, and getting that buy-in from them and trying to help them add value to their properties or maybe reposition them even.
That's wonderful. Christine, thank you so much, and I wish you the best of success on the next chapter for your retail attraction.
Thank you.
All right, we're now talking with a representative of the city of Merced, Deputy City Manager Frank Quintero. So I'm going to turn it over and we're going to ask Frank Quintero. So first, can you tell us a little bit about what's going on in retail in Merced?
We've had a retail renaissance. A 94,000 square foot Sears building is totally tenanted with 8 users. including Ulta, Five Below, Bed Bath and Body Works. We've just really been exploding along Olive Avenue. Our Merced Mall is under renovation right now, and downtown, from what it looked like 5 years ago, completely different. And we've been very blessed these last 5 years.
Can you take us through because this is the fruits of success, but they're coming from many years of planning, analysis, working with local property owners, carrying out the strategy. Can you give us a sense of how you started it? What were the first things you did to get you started on the right track?
First of all, you build relationships with those who you are wanting to draw to your respective community, and you foster those relationships. Because you have to remember, economic development, it's a race, but it's a paced race when it happens quickly, but it's a marathon to get there. What they are looking for is certainty and someone who's going to want to hear their story. And it could be either the property owner, the retailer, the broker. And what it's all about is solidifying that relationship.
I think the retail community today knows very clearly the opportunity of Merced, and you have earned respect and visibility and credibility with the retail community. But it wasn't always like that. I think that there were a lot of years when you had to really work hard to make the case for your demographics in the city. Can you tell us a little bit how you turned that around?
Yes, you're correct, because there were many times I cried on your shoulder, needing to be comforted for having to call 500 people just to get 2 or 3 appointments. But what turned it around was persistence. And it's really a boost when I come to a show like ICSC and they'll say, oh yeah, I remember talking 30 years ago on this, and now we're doing a deal. So we turned around our attitude. Delay wasn't denial. A no didn't mean they weren't ready in the long term. It just meant that they weren't ready at that time to come to Merced. So we would foster that relationship until they were ready and came in. So we saw different levels of retail that were coming into the community, and we're working on a new tier as our population gets closer to 1,000 to 100,000.
Nice. One of the things that strikes me about Merced is how, at least from an outsider's perspective, it seems like you've had very strong leadership at the council level, at the city manager's office level. So it's allowed you to have a very consistent strategy for a number of years rather than being whack-a-mole trying to go implement and then have your progress wiped away. Can you tell me a little bit about, did you do anything to promote political stability or extended attention span? How did you do that, and what is it made in terms of the difference for being able to attract students?
We formed a city council subcommittee on economic development. So it wasn't a general public economic development advisory committee. And what that allowed us to do is to get intimate with our city council and state, this is what economic development is about. Not only is a relationship important, but confidentiality. And once they understood that part of being confidential, we were able to share information with them, and they would help us lay out strategies on who to attract, who to talk to, which direction they wanted to go. That has proven to be very successful. And I've been fortunate enough now, this is our 4th city council we've been doing now.
Wonderful. Last question is, any advice that you would have, like maybe the top 3 things you'd recommend for the new economic development manager who's just stepping into a city that really doesn't have a plan or a strategy and is nowheresville with their economic development program? What are the first 3 things you'd recommend that they look at doing?
Your brand is your word. So keep your word. When you make a promise, whether it's delivering a permit or returning information, do it. Secondly, build that relationship and build it over time. Third, let them tell their story, because you want them to come to your community, so hear them out. Thank you, Alex. Always appreciate your friendship and your mentorship.
All right, we're here with Melinda Dennis, the Assistant Community and Economic Development Director for the City of Pleasanton. Pleasanton has been a city on the move It has always been a powerhouse and really a regional center for office, industrial, and retail. And they find themselves at a crossroads where the competitive market has changed with the rise of Dublin, Livermore, San Ramon. So the changing competitive environment. And they've done a wonderful job of repositioning themselves, being more competitive, finding their place in the regional retail market. Melinda, how'd you do it? Tell us some of the success stories you've had over the last year. Are there any new retailers that have come in?
Yeah, so we're very excited. We've had several new retailers over the last year. In November of last year, we welcomed Phil's Coffee to Pleasanton. They took over in the former KFC space, so it was a great revitalization of an existing space. We've also recently had iSmash, which is an indoor entertainment facility. They opened up their first space in California here in Pleasanton. So we're really, really fortunate to have them choose Pleasanton. And also recently we had Hammer and Nails, which is a grooming establishment for men. And they also chose Pleasanton as their flagship location.
Okay, Hammer and Nails. I've heard of this place. I've heard that it's $600 per month membership just for a haircut and grooming and stuff. Is that true?
Haircut, grooming. They have lots of packages. They also accept walk-ins. So yeah, there's options at all levels.
Nice. No, that's great. That's great. So you recently took over economic development, and I understand that there was some just strategic planning that went on, some analysis. Can you, for the podcast listeners, can you share a little bit about what your planning process has been and what kind of analysis have you done?
Sure. Yeah. So it started with my predecessor and continuing forward the momentum that she started. So for Pleasanton, we did do a void analysis to look at areas of the market, hence void analysis where we have gaps. We did retail scans as well, and taking that momentum forward. We are doing targeted broker meetings with specific retailers to really revitalize our existing shopping centers. We do have some shopping centers with some vacancies, so we are doing targeted things with the brokers and also with tenants, with potential stores. We're looking at national brands. We're looking at local mom and pop brands. We really want to have that combination and that energy between the national brands and the local shops.
That's wonderful. What do you see as the biggest challenges for implementing the next phase of your retail attraction strategy?
Definitely the challenges are we have some aging shopping centers. We do have some shopping centers where the buildings are heavy, the infrastructure may need some upgrades. And so that's a challenge, working with the tenants and with the property owners to get some of those upgrades accomplished. So I feel like that's one of our biggest challenges. We have made strides in terms of maybe in the past, some of our challenges were on the land use and zoning side, but we have streamlined our municipal code to reduce some of those barriers on the zoning side. We are also taking a look at our city process procedures, looking at where we could streamline building permit tenant improvement process just to really help speed things up, because we know time is money for a lot of these businesses.
I want to just put a pin in that for a second, because that's something that I really admire that you've done. And it goes beyond just rewriting the zoning to make discretionary processes now ministerial. It's more than that. You also have worked very hard on trying to rewire the business culture and be more customer service oriented and amp up the collaboration and communication. Would you agree with that?
Yes, that has been, thank you for that. And it has definitely been one of our focuses, working with our local organizations as well as our regional organizations on the collaboration. We work really closely with our Pleasanton Downtown Association, with the Pleasanton Chamber of Commerce, with the local broker communities. It takes a village, right? It takes all of us. And so we are at the city really reaching out to the business community, reaching out to the tenants. What information do they need from us? How can we help them? How can we adapt our process and procedures to really help these businesses?
That's
So
wonderful.
that's the philosophy and approach that myself and my colleague, Abraham Salinas, who's our economic development manager, we are working together to change the narratives in our community.
That's fantastic. What advice would you give for your counterpart in another city who might be stepping into the role of economic development manager for the first time, taking over a city which really is stuck in the mud in terms of economic development? Can you list 3 things that you would say would be at the top of your list to look at and maybe get going?
As a newbie to economic development, because I've only been in my position for 5 months, so my background is in urban planning, land use, permitting, all those things planning related. I really believe that the merger of community development and economic development, which I was fortunate that our organization did that last summer. So our 2 departments merged. And so now we have this collaboration in-house between planning and economic development and our building division, all working side by side. That has been really instrumental in helping us attract businesses, get them through the process. So I'd say it's establishing those relationships. Even if staff are in different departments, it's really important, in my opinion, for economic development staff and planning staff to work together.
Nice.
That was number 1. Number 2, I'm all about looking at building and fire codes and then working backwards. Because at the end of the day, we can modify the zoning code. We can modify design guidelines, but building and fire codes are what they are. And so if a tenant is going into a building that their use requires fire sprinklers, that's a significant investment if that building doesn't have fire sprinklers. And does that tenant have the capital in order to make those improvements? And if they've spent, say, 3 months working with planning to then find out that they need to install fire sprinklers, that's 3 months that they've wasted. And then maybe they need to make the decision to go look at another space. So I'm all about looking at the infrastructure of the building, looking at the bones, and then working your way out. And so that's a slightly different approach that I don't really see a lot in with other economic development staff. I'm just bringing my years of knowledge from planning and building.
Nice. You mentioned a relationship with the property owners. Can you say a little bit more about what you've done to have trusting, credible relationships with the local property owners, the local brokers?
Me, Abraham, and myself, we are beginning a campaign of a new business outreach strategy in Pleasanton. We want to work with our businesses and our property owners at all levels, from our corporate levels all the way down to our mom and pops. At the end of the day, I think it's really important for us as economic development staff to reach out to the property owners and meet them in their space. We go to them. And so we're really meeting with them. We meet regularly with, again, our downtown association, so they're able to put us in touch with some of our local property owners. We routinely reach out to our local shopping center, the brokers, who then put us in touch with the property managers. And so that's how we're able to establish those connections with our property owners.
Wonderful. Last question. I want to shine the spotlight on the work that Pleasanton is doing on marketing. You guys have an amazing new line of collateral materials. You're looking at a more sophisticated social media, your new website. Can you give me a little dime tour of what you have in the works and why you're doing it and how you're doing it for marketing?
Yes, thank you. So we, as a staff, working alongside our communications team, we have really increased our social media presence and really highlighting our businesses. Again, our local businesses, our national brand businesses, all of them. And so we do social media posts, we do highlight reels, we do interviews. We attend ribbon cuttings alongside the Chamber of Commerce, again, really about establishing those connections. And then we just last week at our mayor's Senior Procedure address, we just launched our new Pleasanton Playbook, which is a guide for people to understand how to navigate the process. It's how to start a business in Pleasanton. We heard from our brokers, we heard from our community that they needed assistance, they needed help on how to start a business in Pleasanton. So we put it down on paper. We are launching it on our website this week. And this is just the first phase. We're going to have additional targeted marketing materials that are industry specific, because if somebody's opening up a retail store versus somebody who's opening up a restaurant, they're very different avenues and their process and procedures are different. And so we want to be able to have that for targeted materials. We're also doing a revamp to our economic development website. We also heard our website was difficult to navigate. So we listened, we went back, and did an overhaul to our website. And I'm hoping to launch that in the next 2 weeks. My colleague Abraham has put countless hours and working into this, and it's going to be called pleasantonnow.com. And so I'm very excited when that gets released.
PleasantonNow.com. Navigate to it now. It's going to look fantastic. That's great.
Yes.
Melinda, thank you so much for sharing a little bit about what you're doing for retail attraction. It's all fantastic, and I wish you absolutely the best of luck on next phase of business attraction.
Great. Thank you very much.
Hi, we're now talking with Katie Bowman, Economic Development Manager with the city of San Leandro, a very special city that has had some amazing successes in economic development under the leadership of Katie. Katie, let's start with just the economic development strategy that you did in 2024, and out of that coming the retail action plan. So you've had a lot of strategic planning to set up and queue up your staff efforts. What's some of the analysis that you did, or take us through your planning process?
Sure. Yeah. And thanks, Alex. We worked with you on our 2024 economic development strategy, the first time we had really done something that comprehensive, and have found it to be really beneficial to help focus our work, help think strategically with our limited time and resources. Where do we want to focus it? Where can we get our biggest bang for our bucks? Amongst our top kind of 4 initiatives coming out of that was a retail action plan. Like other cities, we've always done retail attraction, but have been more bootstrapping it. And so it was really nice to be able to take that pause, do the deeper analysis, pull everything together, and put together a plan that could guide myself and our whole team to have it all written down to guide and be more proactive and be more strategic in our work. And as a part of that, we worked with a broker consultant, so got some real world input, and they did evaluation of asset strengths, challenges, as well as a void analysis, things like that, starting with the analysis, talking to the broker market, the developer market, the retail market to see how are things going, where are the challenges, where are the benefits. And from that, put together a really actionable kind of step-by-step plan for me and the staff to update our materials and the way that we do outreach, and then work more strategically on specific retailers. We created a target retailer list based upon that void analysis. And then also a third component of that was strategies to work with existing property owners on upgrading their properties, which was really something our community identified. We're an older community and we have a lot of opportunity to make upgrades. With that, identified some of the different strengths or things that we're targeting at this point here at ICSC, looking like all cities and shopping center owners, looking for those experiential retail tenants. People want to come to shop. They'll come out to shop if they have an experience, a reason to come, a reason to gather. And we have a very diverse community. We have a growing younger family community. And of course, they're always hungry for places to get together, have activities, and eat. And we're targeting that sector. We're also targeting independent specialty grocers, Asian grocers. We're at about 37% Asian in our community at this time. And we have a really strong and dynamic community. And there's a lot of opportunities on the retail side where there are shopping opportunities that all sorts of people want to shop at and look for different options for their food. And then another sector we're looking for is the more kind of lower cost, your Ross, your TJ Maxx, things like that, like the bargain retailers. People go out if they can find a deal. So those are some different areas we're targeting. And
No, that's fantastic. And there's a lot there. Just what I'm hearing is looking at your community's strengths and weaknesses, looking at the demographics and how they've changed over time, and just the trend towards more Asian American, just a more diverse population, looking at sales tax leakage and void analysis to actually get to specific retail categories that you're going to target, working with local property owners, and all of that is synthesized into an actionable step-by-step plan that includes policy changes, zoning, changes to, I heard you say, your website and marketing materials, and different ways that you are interacting with local developers and brokers. That's a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. And so we're very excited, our staff, we've made a landing page for retail, sanleandro.org/retail. And available on there is marketing brochures and information about available retail properties. We have created a new targeted retail information page, a flyer, if you will, that's available there. And so really putting everything together in the way that the brokerage community works now. It's all very digital. Also, that will help so that brokers or retailers can very easily see the spaces that are available, particularly the independent brokers that we tend to get more engaged in as they're maybe harder to fill spaces. So we step in those instances. So we've done flyers, website. As you mentioned, we will be working in the coming year with our planning team on making updates to our zoning code, making sure that it supports the type of uses that we're looking to recreate. Obviously, many of the experiential retail concepts are new that our zoning code didn't contemplate. And so making sure, looking at how and whether and how those are permitted, clearing that path is something that we're going to do. So those are some of the attraction side things that we're doing. On the improvement side, as a part of that plan, we worked with the brokers to look at some specific centers and identify some real tangible, actionable, immediate steps that they could do to make improvements to the center, as well as more mid to long-term investments, so that we can bring these to the property owners and explain exactly what we mean. We have real life examples of property owners making those improvements and getting incredible return on investment, which is, we know what we need, what they need. And we have everything from a small shopping center called Marina Fair that has done a complete facelift and has doubled or tripled their rents. We have a former Bank of America building that is now going to be 6 tenant spaces. They've tripled the rent there, or it's at least double above kind of general market, bringing a Panda Express, Chipotle, UPS, and hopefully some gym and other uses there. And so the market is hungry, but they want those nice new spaces. And so we're going to continue to work with the property owners to help to make that business case for those improvements.
That's wonderful. One thing I love about San Leandro, but it also makes it incredibly challenging, is the diversity of the built environment. You've got this robust, amazing downtown. And by the way, congratulations. You're already starting to bear some fruit.
Yeah.
What's come in recently?
Yeah, so we're very excited. A new mixed-use project in downtown called Central Callan, about 200 apartments with retail on the ground floor, a Sprouts grocer, as well as now a Phil's Coffee. And once again, our community is very hungry for these things. They've been very popular openings. And so we have, for the past many years, have had a number of the more mid-century kind of retailers, your traditional retailers. And so people are really hungry for these new concepts. And so we continue at the city to make those connections, help those retailers understand the benefits and the rewards that they'll reap from coming here.
That's wonderful. Downtown San Leandro is white hot now. It's really turned a corner. But then you also have East 14th Street, which, I mean, used to be a state highway, and I guess it still is a state highway, but it has retail storefronts along the entirety of the boulevard, but all very 60 to 100-year-old storefronts, very awkward configurations, not matching up to modern retail standards or parking standards. And then you have several strip centers throughout the neighborhood, as you mentioned, and then You have Greenhouse Marketplace and Bayfair Mall at the south end of the city. So a great diversity of types. And in some cases, you have retail space that was built 1, 2, 3 generations ago.
Yep.
That there are some infrastructure issues. There's some major real estate changes that need to happen to accommodate modern retail needs. How has that been? And what are some of the challenges you've had to face?
Along East 14th, as you mentioned, we have a historic, cohesive downtown with smaller properties. That also a number of independent family-owned properties working on. That's a continual work in progress. I think when we think about the length of East 14th, in general, we think about right-sizing retail, focusing on nodes. So the whole thing can't be so things will find most success when you focus on nodes rather than spreading resources out thin. Downtown is a node. There's several nodes in between along the course of the street. And then at the end of our portion of East 14th is Bayfair Mall. So we have a 1950s era, an early indoor mall that has evolved over the years. And beginning in 2018, we began planning for the future of that area, understanding already then that malls are changing. And so this mall also happens to be at a BART stop. That provides a lot of TOD, transit-oriented development opportunities. So we developed a full TOD plan for the area, updated zoning for the area. It is now fully zoned for mixed use for up to 5,000 housing units. What is the most interesting to me is not that theory, but what do we do between now and when it becomes what we imagine it to be? And so currently we have a mall that has hundreds of thousands of square feet available. It has active retail along one side, but the inside has closed. Now we're working with the property owners, B3, who are remodeling the rear of the interior into research and development office, into medical office, potentially biomed, and some education. And so using that space to innovate and to bring the foot traffic, bring the market, and then with the hope that residential development will come.
Wow. So it's almost like you're strategically reducing the retail space so that it can be concentrated in the areas where you want it to be really functional. That's great.
Yeah, and it's these days a little bit less about square footage, more
Yeah.
about total sales.
Nice. My final question, you mentioned that through this strategic planning process, you realized you had to interact with the development community in a different way. Do you have any general advice for other cities on what you've learned about and what best practices you practice dealing with your local brokers, property owners, and other members of the development community?
As I mentioned, understanding their perspective, their point of view, the need to gain return on investment, the amount of recognizing and respecting the amount of risk and the amount of investment that they make, which as costs are going up, as retail environment is changing, it can be a risk. Coming from that point of respect on the property owner side, on the broker side, also showing them the numbers. They're really the facts and the numbers first and the stories second, as much as we'd love to start with the story. So we've also, through our materials, through our website, been focusing on making sure that all of the facts are lined up in a straightforward way to tell the story with the facts first.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
That is great. Thank you so much for your time, Katie. I know that the rest of 2026 is going to be a great year for retail for you. So best wishes to you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you to Alex Greenwood, economic development consultant, for guest hosting the podcast and sharing such an in-depth look on economic development in all of these cities.
Thanks for listening to the Capstone Conversation. Don't forget to subscribe and follow Jared Ash and Capstone Government Affairs on LinkedIn. Leave us a review and share this episode with a friend.